Learning stuff from MrExcel Podcast, episode 2010, Pivot Sparklines. So, hey, I'm podcasting this entire book. Click that I in the top right-hand corner to subscribe to the playlist. Welcome back to the MrExcel Netcast. I'm Bill Jelen. Today, we're continuing to build this dashboard. So far, we've used some slicers, we've used a pivot chart, and now I want to use a new feature in Excel 2010 called a Sparkline. A Sparkline, as defined by Professor Edward Tufte in his book, Beautiful Evidence, is data intense word size chart. All right, so I want to show year-over-year trend by sales rep here. We're going to go back to our original data. I'm going to insert a pivot table, existing worksheet, and let's go to our dashboard, but not here in the dashboard that everyone sees, off to the right where no one will see it. So we'll just come down below the other one, leave some room for some extra growth there, and say that our pivot table will go there. All right, now down the left-hand side, I want to show the sales rep name, and across the top, I want to show the year, and then we sum the value. All right, so what we have here is a nice trend line. I don't want the grand total at the end. That will screw things up, so we'll remove the grand total. Grand total at the bottom, I actually want to get rid of that, so remove that grand total. Again, I'm right-clicking there. All right, so now we have our pivot table, but see, it's taking up a lot of space, and we can put this information in a tiny, tiny bit of space. So I select the data that has my numbers. I want to insert. There's three different types: lines, columns, and win-loss. Either the line or the column would work here. I'm going to use a column. All right, it says, where do you want the sparklines to be placed? Well, they're going to go back up here. Choose 5 rows. Click OK. All right, now, first off, a couple things with the sparklines. They are small, right? So in order to make them a little bit larger, I like to make the columns wider. All right, maybe like that. From these default sparkle lines, I always go in and say I want the high point and the low point to be different colors. So we'll make the markers just in general. We'll have them be dark gray. And then I want to call out the low point. I'll use orange for that. And then the high point, I'll use blue for that. All right, so now we can see the lowest and the highest value for each of these. Of course, to see the people, just a simple little formula here. And it's down in P71. Copy that down and make this wide enough. Format column autofit, Alt-O-C-A. And maybe this is a little bit too large right now. Okay, so now in a very small space, basically 2 cells, we're showing a 10-year trend. And we can see that John Henning, he used to be the superstar, and he's falling off. Linda here has been increasing recently. John, for some reason, peaked 2 years ago and then kind of fell off since then. All right, so just gives you a great view. Small space, a little bit of formatting. Now, the one thing you have to understand with Sparklines is that these are all scaled independently of each other. So if someone is selling twice as much, the columns are still going to fill the size of the entire, the height of the entire cell. If you don't want it like that, then we would come here to axis, and we have to do 2 things. We're going to say the minimum axis is the same for all Sparklines, and then maximum axis is the same for all Sparklines. All right, so a little bit different there. All right, now, this is cool. We're continuing to build our dashboard. We have a pivot chart here. We have slicers, but here's the problem. These slicers are not controlling this pivot table, well, the data that this pivot table is based on. That will be in tomorrow's episode. All right, again, everything we're talking about in August and September 3's podcast is in this book. Click that link in the top right-hand corner to buy the book. Okay, recap for this episode. Sparklines, as defined by Edward Tufte, are word size charts. Check out his book, Beautiful Evidence, for lots of examples. Use Sparklines to fit lots of data in a small space. So I built a second pivot table from the original data, put the data for the Sparklines in the pivot table, take out the grand totals from the pivot table, select the numbers for the Sparklines, insert Sparklines column, select where you want the Sparklines to go. Because I had 5 rows here, I had to choose 5 rows here. Make the column wider to make the Sparkline larger, or make the row taller, or both, or merge cells. You've never heard me tell you to merge cells, but it is a way to make the Sparklines wider. I changed the color of the high and low points so you can see where people peaked. And then if you want the Sparklines to be scaled together, change the axis min and max, 2 different settings there. All right, well, hey, I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time for another netcast from Mr. Excel.